Gloucester Road by Thunder Wonder. What a coincidence, Margaret thought, as she glanced at the phone for the GPS. She needed to bring her many outs to the well-known restaurant, which is located at Gloucester Road. Gloucester. That sounds familiar. Who is Gloucester? She could recall him, she thought, but that wasn't the part that she wanted to remember. Reading the Kindle again about Henry VI, she seemed to have an idea. Gloucester, now she recalls, is Humphrey of Lancaster, the lord that was wrongly accused of high treason. Everything would be so complicated as people were involved, she thought, and that was also what Clausen told her. Gloucester Road, she cried out in her heart. What a coincidence. When she thinks, she freezes, and she would be so stiff that her eyes wouldn't even turn. When she thinks, she would be like a statue, standing there without even moving. Eat something. Don't sit here like that. Don't pray to your food, one of her aunts suggested. It was almost like a clash of thunder dragging her back to reality. Due to the recent marriage of their niece, it was quite a hot topic that they would talk about. Was it another family drama, she thought? Will it be a tragic one, just like how the stories had been told? Typically that marriage, in terms of family status, was a civilian marrying a princess. All of Margaret's aunts, the queen, the princess mother, and her sisters didn't like the new groom at all. Waiting at status, he wasn't as high as the princess. After all, it was a royal and a civilian. Waiting at the attitude and diligence, comparing to other lords, he's no better. He doesn't take care of the baby, and he does nothing but just eat all day, like a pig. Margaret's aunts gave him a nickname. Big Gut, they call him. Since the time he joined the family, his gut grew bigger and bigger. There was once when it was a gathering for the visiting of the newborn baby. Joyce, one of the aunts, had pointed out his laziness in front of all those relatives, accusing him of not helping Imogen to take care of the baby, but still enjoying his dinner. Joyce had clearly pointed out that marrying to this family was never about enjoying life without work to do all day. Marrying into this family means responsibility and hard life. To Joyce and the queen and king, Imogen's new groom was simply using the accuse of love to woo Imogen in a way that she would undoubtedly fall into the sugar trap, and then by using her, he would have a better life. To Imogen's family, by marriage, they joined the two families, but the groom's family was poor. After the marriage, they kept using Imogen's resources, money, food, just everything. The house that the young couple had was fully paid by Imogen, and Thomas didn't even pay a penny. Of course, Imogen's family would think that they were thieves, trying to steal the whole family's property. That was how Margaret met Clausen. In the same accident, he was the nephew of the groom. However, it wasn't any midsummer's night dream. It was just not romantic at all. Margaret accepted his love because she wanted to turn it out to her. If you never loved deadly, you never truly live. And this ain't youth, for you never loved. Well, she cherished youth more than anything. Sometimes, something that she didn't want to admit was that she could sense the love of Clausen since the very first beginning. It's just her. Don't ask why. She had read way too much to sense it, and it was her to confess. She didn't even love Clausen at all. She just wanted to sleep off the taste of what first love was. And she was bold. People only say it should be the guys who confess. Girls shouldn't and should show some restraint. But she cares not gender role. She hates gender stereotypings. However, the good days didn't last long. When they met, it was 1 month before Clausen had to study overseas. Margaret was attentive and observant. She liked to watch quietly in the corner of what's going on, just like how she liked to read. She noticed that her situation with Clayton must not be refuted. It would lead to the great taboos and would ruin her self-image. And not just herself, it will worsen the current view of Clayton's family. Imogen's family already held a negative attitude towards Clayton's family. Thomas had already taken one of the princesses. Now with Clayton stealing Margaret, to them, they are like nothing but just raiders of the family property. Margaret is always Margaret, always observant, and always considerate. However, Clayton thinks that Margaret was just overthinking. Unlike Margaret, Clayton is carefree. Family status, he cares not. Family image, of course he cares not. Who's gonna stop me from this? He once asked it. Margaret and Clayton are different people, completely different. Perhaps it has something to do with their growing up environment. While Clayton was still being that child, learning how to walk, Margaret was already out there, socializing with famous people and was following Imogen. Margaret had responsibilities and things to control, while Clayton had to just live his own way without all those human affairs. For both of them agreed that human causes chaos. Margaret had to live carefully, while Clayton could live without worries. Clayton could do whatever he wanted to do, to be in a relationship with Margaret, while Margaret had to live under fear, being so cautious, trying to cover up all the clues that they are in a relationship. Why would she have to do this, while Clayton could worry about nothing, apart from the reasons that one has more responsibility than the other? Another cause was that Clayton thinks that marriage is just a matter of two, and others don't have to interfere. That's why he doesn't care about how Margaret turns and look at his family. In the opposite way, Margaret thought that marriage was just not the world of two, but is the matter of two families. That's what her mother taught her. She knew that it is not going to work if one family has disagreements with another. Although she thinks that dating is not for marriage, but the process matters much more, and she is not here with an intention of marriage. She knows that if someone knows, then the show cannot go on, and everything will be doomed. Sometimes Margaret wanted to be as simple, as carefree as Clayton. Sometimes she thought her life wasn't as good as Clayton's, but look at all the admiration she got, all the resources, all the capital. Everything comes at a cost. With admiration, there comes responsibility, and with responsibility, there comes fears. Those happy days lasted sometimes until one day her mother discovered that they were dating, and at the end she had to break up with Clayton without telling him why, and it was in Gloucester Road where the lovers said farewell. Now Margaret and her aunts had arrived at the restaurant, and the owner of the shop was a good friend of her aunt's, one of the clients. Margaret could recollect that in the past, the paints on the walls of the olden days reminds her of one's thriving kingdom of theirs. Her grandfather was a successful businessman. He opened up a similar restaurant like the one she was sitting in. All of it was so old, but worth cherishing. After all, it had been staying with her grandfather for a long time, and witnessed his growth. Her grandfather got richer, and he started a new business. This time was a new challenge, opening up a jewelry factory. Unfortunately, she had no chance to see this shining time. The kingdom fell by the time when she was 6. Then, there comes the family disputes. Margaret's uncle took the restaurant in charge afterwards. He didn't just take it away, but was given directly the ownership, and that was of course what lead to her father's anger. Well, it wasn't a matter at all that her uncle took the restaurant, but what matters was that her uncle kept bossing her father around, so that leads to disagreement between the father and son. Listening to a lot of negative attitudes from her parents towards her uncle, sometimes she thought that if he was the fifth, the reason that her grandfather gave the ownership to her uncle was because he could handle it better. But the fact was, her grandfather didn't even taught her father a single thing because of being busy all the time. Her grandfather was a failure in parenting. Now that this little monument, which was once a colony, is being demolished because of development, she doubts what's the point of the building up a kingdom if you couldn't inherit it generation after generation. This is how a kingdom fell, she thought, the new washing away the old. But in this wave, there is regret, unlike how the past can pass down the crowns to the sons. With people, there come politics, she concluded, although it wasn't like the politics happening in the court or the past Henrys. It was a small but obvious politic, where the strong ones get rid of the weak ones, and the big ones tease and use the small ones. Love and politics are just the same. One wrong policy could lead to the broken bond of the father and son. As the food was delivered to the front of her, she finally remembered that she had to take pictures to show off to Cloten how important she was to the family, and they treat her like a princess. She once mentioned to Cloten that her family treats her like a princess and that she is in fact a princess, trying to explain why she would have to hide their situation. But Cloten thought that she was just being too narcissistic. Since when did they get together again? It wasn't a long time ago. They were having a chat about the past, and there was something that was keeping in Margaret's heart for a long time. She was so sorry that she stole Cloten's heart, just because of her recklessness, that Cloten had to pay all the true feelings and his true heart, then to get together again. So Margaret kept chatting with Cloten non-stop for a day, but then it was cut off. Cloten didn't reply to Margaret's message. The tongues of men are full of deceits. She tried to tell Cloten something, but then she deleted the message. She didn't know why. After that non-stop bombardment of messages on the phone, then the only reply she got was, "What's going on?" Gloucester Road they were in. Henry VI didn't love Margaret as much as he did, all because of this little Gloucester, and it was Gloucester Road that reminded her of the fallen kingdom, and that lovers couldn't come together, or that Margaret had opened up a new chapter for him. He didn't hold on to the chance. He was waiting for Margaret, but then, when Margaret came to him, he was away. They couldn't meet in the end. Chance slips by like a little mouse at the back of life. It was Gloucester Road, where it is full of regret, and it was Gloucester Road that reminds her that love and politics are just the same. Oh, let the lovebirds fly out of the window, and let the night cover the day, for nothing now could come to any good.